Alrighty, so earlier this year, we got a 10th Saw film, Sal X. I saw it a couple months ago, right when it released. Then I didn't have time to finish the rest of Saw franchise. I finished the Spiral 2 weeks ago is when I watched that movie, and so now I'm finally going to rank the franchise. One quick thing, I am still continuing my Saw review series. I still have one more video to go, which is Saw 3D, Saw X, and Jigsaw, not Saw X, Jigsaw and Spiral from the Book of Saw. So I'll go more in depth on those in reviews. I do have reviews for the Saw movies on my channel already. It'll be part of the playlist. Go ahead and check out my Saw reviews off there if you want to learn my more in-depth details on each of the films. And thank you guys for clicking on this video. With that said, comment down below what is your ranking of the 10 Saw films. And with that said, let's get started with my number 10. This list is very crazy. I can totally tell that a lot of you are probably going to hate me for this list. They're not going to agree with me on a lot of the placings. And so we're going to get started off with a banger. 10th place is Saw 3. I know, not 3D, the third film in the franchise overall. Now, this started off, to me, as a very solid movie. Like, the kills and the way that the plot was going really intrigued me. From the very beginning, in Saw 1, we barely had any kills. That was my big issue with it. In Saw 2, we got the big kills. In this one, it just looks like we're going more in depth with the kills, and it looks like it's going to be more awesome. And even like the story of Jigsaw dying, and he has to put someone in the trap to save his life. That was a very interesting premise to me, and was almost played out pretty well. Where this movie falls apart for me is with the third act, and the twists, and the turns, and the Amanda plotline. I cannot stress how much I hate the Amanda plotline, and how this movie made me hate her character. She, for me, was like, she wants Jigsaw to live, but when he grows an attachment to the person who's living, she just gets all jealous, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard anybody. Oh, they're saving this guy's life that I really like. I hate her for it. Like, how selfish and stupid does that sound? And then there's like overly too many plot twists to where first off it's revealed that it's a trap for her, and then the main character that's trying to escape, the other guy who's in the trap, they're apparently married, and there's just too much thrown at you there. It just all contradicts itself, and it doesn't make any sense. And just combine that with a crappy Amanda plotline and a crappy Amanda character that was here. I definitely feel like this one is the worst in the franchise. 9th place, we got Saw 3D. I could see a lot of you people, like, shocked that I didn't put this in 10. This movie, for me, I think that the enjoyment level and the amount of negatives it had kind of contradict. Kind of like Rocky 5. I really enjoy Rocky 5, but the elements, there's a lot of elements in that do not work, and so it's one of my least favorite films on the franchise, and I'm going to have to say the same thing for Saw 3D. Number 1, I really do like 4, 5, and 6, and this is 7th film, so it kind of follows that same trend where you get people in traps, you get people that you don't really care about in traps, you get so much blood, so much torture porn stuff in this movie, you get so much of that, and that's the entertaining part, and what it does pretty, I think it does okay. I think that the traps were pretty good in this movie. Where the movie goes wrong is in 2 places. Number 1, the treatment of Dr. Gordon. I think the treatment of Dr. Gordon is abysmal. He shows up in one scene, and then he just kind of disappears until the end of the movie, where he shows up to turn out to be another one of Jigsaw's replacements. Like, oh my gosh, how many times have we gone over this plotline of the apprentices? Like, not only that, but it just doesn't feel earned. It feels lazy and weak and stupid, and I just can't get behind that. Also, it is a 3D movie, and so you're having blood and guts flying at you, but they don't look like blood and guts. They do not look good. The visual effects in this movie do not look good. It's like somebody took a paintbrush, dumped it in a bucket of paint, and then splattered it at you. That's what this movie looked like. It does not look good, and it's just one of the weakest aspects of the film. I do think that the blood, not the blood, but the kills and all that, still entertaining. It's still an entertaining movie. It has everything that I like about the Saw franchise, but just because of those 2 problems, it has to go in number 9. Number 8, I'm going Spiral from the Book of Saw. To be very clear, Saw 3, I think is, I'd go more bad. I'd say that's more of a bad movie. Saw 3D, I'd say, is mixed positive. Like, I like the movie, but it just has issues. I do like this movie. I do like movies going on from this. And so Spiral for me was just kind of a breath of fresh air into the franchise, to where we have a new killer. We have a detective that's trying to figure out who the killer is. It focuses more on the detective. You actually care about the characters in this movie, to where in a lot of the movies, you're just like, these people are terrible people, why should we care about them? You care about the detective and his father here, and you want to see more what happens. It's just a unique way to make the movie. Of course, I did miss Jigsaw, John Kramer, but I didn't totally despise the way that it was made, to where he doesn't have to be the killer. I think that the killer reveal was pretty solid along the way as well. I think it was just a breath of fresh air. Where the movie goes wrong for me is within the last bit of the movie. I think it does way too much. So you got the reveal, right? Then you got the killer getting stopped. The police are in. You rescue the father. You won. You feel a sense of accomplishment. And then in a way, they're like, oh no, but I got one final trick. So the cop all of a sudden has guns, he starts shooting at him, and then he dies, and then takes all sense of accomplishment away, and all sense of victory from our characters away. And even for the villain, it just like, it feels like something Jigsaw would do, but it's not Jigsaw, so it doesn't really work in that way. It feels like a Jigsaw copycat. Like something copycatting what was done in the past. And so just, it didn't really work for me. Right when that happened, I pretty much was like really liking this movie, to being like, what just happened? What were the ideas here? And so just with that aspect, it just, that really wasn't, the ending for it really wasn't the best, but I still really enjoyed it. And then we got number 7. This is another shocking placement, Sal X. This is the number 1 on a lot of you guys' lists. For me, I think this movie was good. I enjoyed it. I think that it has some great parts. I feel like John Kramer being in here and being present throughout the whole thing, showing them the traps, was really good. The people who are in these traps, they're not just like, it's not just explained, yeah, these guys did this bad thing, and so we have to stop them. No, it was, you see them, they're scammers, they gave false hope, he's putting them in this trap. Like, you feel that, and it's dangerous, and you really, you're not rooting for them, but like, it's really cool. The traps are really cool, and it's the first Saw movie I saw on a big screen, so seeing all this gore and kills on the big screen, pretty good. I feel like there's a lot of aspects in this movie that was pretty good. Along with Spiral, though, this movie was also one that the final act didn't really do that much for me. I feel like the final trap here, to where it's set up for 2 people, but only one person survived the last trap, and then all of a sudden it's like, John Kramer knew exactly what's going to happen. He planned this out so perfectly, and it's like, you really have to pull some strings to make it be exactly the way. Like, feels like the writers were cheating just to make the finale be pretty cool. And I think the finale was pretty cool. The blood and gore was pretty cool. It just doesn't make any sense in the way it was executed. Also, on top of that, like, it's definitely weird seeing John Kramer as an anti-hero. I thought it was pretty neat, but compared to like all the other ones, seeing all the bad stuff that John Kramer does, this one just definitely wasn't the most entertaining for me, and it definitely is kind of weird seeing John Kramer. I thought it was good. I thought that the kills, the traps were very good, but there's just a couple of problems here, specifically in that final act, and some of the writing issues that really kind of didn't work all that well for me. Then we got Jigsaw, the prequel. This was the first ever Saw movie I watched, period. I had my best friend come over, sitting here. We were never allowed to watch horror movies at the time, and so we were just looking here, and I owned horror movies. I was allowed to watch some horror movies, just not the Saw franchise yet, because I was like 16 at the time. But we were looking at it, and I owned the Saw collection because it was for Black Friday, and I got all the movies for $10. But we were looking at it, we're like, we're going to watch a Saw movie. So we put on Jigsaw, and in that time, this was a while back, but in that time when I watched it, it felt just to me like another Saw movie. Like, it didn't feel like it did anything unique. Obviously, you got the twist to where there's the apprentices, and you knew that was going to happen. There's the traps, they're fun traps to make you cringe. A couple cool ones there, specifically the one where in the corn and then all the weapons start falling out. I thought that one was pretty cool. The one where the guy's leg was stuck, that one was pretty neat as well. But overall, like, it just felt like another Saw movie. Everything else on this list, except like there's 4, 5, and 6 that I feel like they kind of get jumbled in my head a little bit. But this one for me, it feels like those movies, but just not enough fun. Like, the fun aspect of 4, 5, and 6, all the drama aspect, all that, it's not here. This just feels like a Saw movie. There's Jigsaw, he's killing people. There's traps, there's gruesome moments. Just feels like there's apprentices, of course. Feels like it hits every one of those beats, but there's not really anything specific that really sticks out for the movie. It's fine, it's entertaining. It's probably the most basic movie on this list that I'm going to talk about today. But it's still a fine movie in general. Off our top 5 is Saw 4. Now for me, this movie does have some pretty interesting things. You're following a cop who's on his way to stop Jigsaw, and along the way, it's very interesting where the whole premise for him is that they're trying to train him to become a Jigsaw apprentice, but he's seen the error of the ways. He's going to people. These people are evil people. They've done evil things, specifically the fat guy he's a rapist. Anyways, it's interesting because you see him make these decisions as these innocent people are getting killed. It's an interesting decision. It makes it stand out from the rest of these movies, that decision as well. Meanwhile, the traps, the gore, all that is pretty good as well. Of course, it also brings back our detective from Saw 2, where he's trapped. You have this overall trap. He's trying to go through this, find these people. He's trying to save these people. So he's a cop. He's trying to save these people, but Jigsaw's also trying to teach him a lesson that there's people that aren't worth saving. So it's an interesting thing here. Kind of a weird thing, kind of a thing that I'm more mixed positive on, not like mixed negative, but mixed positive on. I'm more mixed on the whole thing, but it was a unique thing, something that stuck out. Obviously, 4, 5, and 6 for me are basically the same opinions on it, to where they obviously always have something unique that sets them apart, but it always has the good gore, the good violence, everything good about it, and so I feel like it was just pretty fun. This movie is where the Saw franchise starts turning from fun torture porn movies for me. That's where I started to like it, and I do like this one. Also, the final trap, the final trick, where he can't open the door, he's got to be patient, he got to learn. I feel like that's absolutely cool. And then he opens the door, people start dying, all that. Also, there was the twist reveal with Hoffman. Never much of a fan of the twist reveal of Hoffman. Hoffman is a fan favorite character of mine. I love Hoffman. You're going to hear that a lot more in this video. But the treatment of him, the final twist, I don't think worked all that well for me. But overall, it's a movie that has some unique decisions, but it overall starts the fun stage of the Saw franchise. Number 4, Saw 6, the final film in the little trilogy of films for me. I do think it was all pretty cool with the Hoffman stuff and the way, like, Hoffman is this bad guy. Everything's crashing down on him. People are suspecting him. The way, like, all of a sudden when they find out, he just goes crazy and murders everybody in that room. That was really good. The part where Jill puts the reverse bear trap on his face, I thought that was very, very cool as well. I think there's a lot of great things in this movie. The thing with this one is the one that I always have to look at, like, the premise to see what was really specific about it. Of course, I know that it follows Hoffman. This is Hoffman's final stage. He gets in the bear trap, rips it off his face. Very cool. He kills people like that. But the overall story and, like, the reason for the killing, all that never really stuck with me. That was the stuff that never really stuck with me. And so while it's another fun Saw movie, all the traps are cool, none of the traps really stuck with me. The only things that stuck with me about this movie were Hoffman getting his face cut in the bear trap, and then ripping it off. Like, those were the things that stuck with me through this entire movie. The rest of the movie was just like, yeah, okay. And I don't really remember a whole lot about it, so that's my one negative with these 3 middle movies, that I don't really remember a whole lot about it. So, it's a good movie. I liked it, but let's move on to number 3, which is Saw 5 as well. Same kind of problem. Like, right now I'm having to look and realize what this is. what the movie's about. Obviously, I do like Agent Strom and Hoffman cat and mouse game. I think that part is really cool. It's one of my favorite parts about the franchise. I think that aspect of this movie is really, really cool. But it's another movie to where I just can't put my finger on why Hoffman's killing these people. I do like Hoffman. I remember that this is a movie where he fights Agent Strom. Like, all that stands out about it. But these last two movies, they're really hard for me to remember, okay, is this the real estate one, or is this the one where there's this guy and he has to decide? Like, it's hard for me to remember that. Like, the middle of the movie's not all that memorable. I remember the first act. I remember the last act. The middle is just kind of, like, basic for me. It might have been because I kind of watched these movies on the same day. That might have been the reason. But it's just very hard for me to remember. I still very much find these movies fun, though. Both of these middle movies, this whole last three movies that I've talked about, I think that are very fun. And where the main fun in the Saw franchise is, the drama, all that's very cool. I just like a whole lot of that. I think Saw 5 is the one where we start delving back into John Kramer's past. So I think I like that aspect as well. But this overall, these three movies are just kind of, they all blend together for me. I like them, but also they always have their problems, which is they're not that memorable. Second place, the original Saw. Now now you know it's number one. The original Saw for me was very good. I really liked it. But it definitely had a big standing issue for me. The way I watched this movie was I actually was at the hospital. I planned on coming home from work and watching this film. And I come home, I sit down on my couch, and I have this thing on my foot. Like the thing that's really hurting my foot. And I'm like, hey, Mom, I do have this thing on my foot. I don't know if it's important. She's like, that's a spider bite. So she took me to the hospital. And so for a spider bite, there's nobody in there. We sat there for 3 hours. So I kind of watched half the movie on the phone, come home, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, watch the rest of the movie. So that's the way I watched the movie. But I did really like the movie. I did really like it. Of course, I obviously rewatched it a little back. That was just a little fun story of how I first watched it. But I still really liked it the first time. I feel like this movie can make it really scary. This is a really scary movie. While not also being, like, the big torture porn stuff. Of course, I do wish there was more gore. I do wish, like, even when he cut off his foot, it's just kind of, like, really not there. Like, I think it's a very overhyped scene in media. But I feel like the tension here, the thing, there's two people, they're stuck in a room, Jigsaw, give them a trap, and you're following this whole movie to just try to figure it out. It's like, I think it's like an hour, 50-minute movie, to where nothing really happens, but you're engaged the whole time because you feel like you could be in their shoes. It's intense. Every time you learn a new trick, it's cool. I mean, obviously, when you get to the end of the movie and everything comes crashing down, you learn the final reveals, you learn what's going to happen. It's all very cool. Of course, I really like the final twist to where, oh, the game's not over. John Kramer is not the guy. He's the other guy who was lying dead on the floor. Like, all that is very cool. That makes this movie really, really great and really, really intense. It's more of a thriller than a horror movie, though. I definitely could have used some more gore, like, especially when you cut off that leg. It's a very overhyped scene in media, and so watching that, to me, was just kind of me like, huh, okay. Yeah, that was a cool scene. The rest of it was really good, but I do wish there was definitely a lot more gore. That's why it's not number one. Number one is Saw 2. It takes everything that they had about the original Saw, and I think really improves on it. You got characters and like an engaging thing that makes the movie almost 2 hours, but you're engaged when really nothing happens. It's there. It's intense. You get the traps and the torture porn. All that is there mixed with the blood and gore, and it's just all very, very cool and just improves on a lot of things that the first movie had. It's another sequel that I watched that I do find more engaging than the original. When they're in the house, it's engaging. The final twist is engaging. It's everything that I wanted the first movie to be, but it improves on everything that I was missing from that first movie as well. So that's why it is my favorite movie in this franchise. I'm going to have a couple more reviews coming up. I do have a November ranking coming up. I do live streams. Go check out some of my live streams. I'm going out of town, and while I'm out of town, I'm going to go see Godzilla -1, so there's going to be a review for that. I had a bunch more videos coming up. Thank you guys for clicking on this one. With that said, subscribe, join the Nerd Army. Peace out.